How does he do it? It's almost like Hikaru can't even believe how good it was. Like, this is why you play them on. You can't tell Hikaru not to play those positions on, Tanya, when he ends up winning them.
It is unbelievable. It is unreal. It's almost like a cheat code that Hikaru has, the way he's able to trick his opponent in these positions. He keeps mounting the pressure, move after move, and they all crack.
That's truly incredible. Almost I find myself saying that a lot, right? When it comes to Hikaru's matches and his games, there's always something incredible that we see, and it's like, can he top it again? It feels like he might have just done that, because to win that position against someone that clearly, Tanya, understood the defensive mechanism, like to a T, was doing it absolutely perfectly, and yet still slipped due to the pressure, due to the guy he was playing. We talk about the Magnus effect. Is this the Hikaru effect?
It's for real. It does exist. And Hikaru also, just like Magnus when it comes to these formats, lives rent-free in his colleagues' heads. And that's what we saw just being played out. Liem is a world-class player. He knows these endgames at the back of his hand. He knows how to defend them. The F-passer, the king in front, you have everything set up for yourself. Hikaru, he just keeps playing. Move after move. He's playing it fast. He keeps putting pressure. He's not hitting the draw button. He's not offering it. He's not giving it. He's making you sweat. And then suddenly out of nowhere, it's draw, 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 draw until it's not. You make a blunder and that's it. Hikaru Nakamura wins.
And let's get right into this game right here. I do see the chat hinting, I guess Hikaru is obviously streaming, and he said that he would gift 100 subs if his opponent couldn't draw this, probably as one of those things you say because it's almost like a compliment to the opponent. It's like, it's no chance it's going to happen, so in the event it doesn't, here's this crazy thing I'll do. Well, I guess you're looking at 100 subs for a win. That's not a bad going rate. Tanya, what do you think?
Not a bad trade at all, especially not at this stage with the London finals in line and every single match of these. And this is what we have. The thing is, for Liem now, it's also become such a psychological battle, right? Because you're thinking about what happened in game 2, where you should have just been winning throughout. And that goes out of your hand. And then what just happened in the previous game? How are you not able to hold this position against Hikaru? You call it the Hikaru effect. It is what we're seeing being played out. And is that a blunder by Hikaru Nakamura that just gives up a pawn? Knight takes pawn. You can't pin the knight because knight takes bishop is a check.
Yep, knight takes c6, the blue arrow from the computer here indicating that is the best move and necessary move to maintain the advantage that the computer sees here. Just reinforcing, Tanya, that despite the 3.5, 1.5 score, despite everything we've seen, the amazing swindles from Hikaru, still, Quang Liem is getting some good playable positions, some clear advantages. So you can't say that this has just been like a one-sided match. The scoreline is one-sided, but the positions have not been.
The score doesn't tell the full story of how the match has progressed. It doesn't even tell half the story of how things have gone in the actual game. But that's the thing about Hikaru, right? It's so much about the clock as well. It's so much about those final moments that are extremely decisive with him. And there we see more pawns dropped off there. That's one extra pawn for white and looks pretty healthy. Now the knight can come out, can develop by recapturing the bishop.
Yep, everything looks good here. The A pawn is very weak as well on the A file. We have two connected central pawns here. This is a beautiful position for Quang Liem. He just needs to, you're kind of looking to connect the pawns here, maybe solve your development problems. You get the knight on F3, pawn to E3, you're home free. So I think the next couple moves here are absolutely crucial for Hikaru to generate some type of counterplay, some type of initiative, whether that's knight into e4, rook to c2. He needs something that doesn't just let white, play all the basic moves and enjoy those extra bits of material that he's collected.
He continues to put pressure on e2. Will he have enough time to defend the a6 pawn? Rook takes pawn is the next threat. Attacks with b4. The knight can jump to the center of the board, hitting the queen and the pawn on b4. I think we're going to see some trades. And in the end, Hikaru, b4 falls and the a6 pawn as well.
Yeah, so it's going to be a two-pawn advantage if you can win b4. But I have to say, it does seem unlikely that white's going to be able to keep both of these pawns in this position. So let's see. It might immediately be a two-pawn advantage, but it just looks difficult to keep the b and the d pawn both protected.
But this is tricky, right, Aman? Because he forced the rook into passivity. Liem did by this last move. The knight couldn't have moved because knight e7 was a fork, winning that rook on c8. So the only rook that's active is 1. So you're going to win that b4 pawn. But before that, he makes a square for the king. So rook d3 would defend b3 if needed.
I think he's trying to I think he's trying to get rook b2, knight e7 check, and then knight c6. But it doesn't quite win this knight because of rook c8. So there are definitely some lines to calculate there, but I believe that's what he's looking at. The other way you can do that is knight b4, and I guess it makes more sense to take the pawn first.
And I agree with painless 4-7-8 with our feature chat. I think that wasn't a painless loss for Liem in that last round. But so far, it looks like he has recovered from it. Rook d3 defense, and now knight takes pawn, a big threat going up by material. And that should be enough. Also, let's point out, Aman, rook d3 threatens rook f3 at the right time to assist that rook on a7.
Okay, and what did we just see here? Because I think knight takes b4 could have happened, and it would have just been the same idea of knight c6. So I wonder if Le Quang almost did the same mistake that I did when calculating. It's like knight e7, c6. Well, why wouldn't you take a pawn and go there anyway?
That's a great question, because the rook on d6 feels a lot more active than on d8, was also threatening rook f6. So rook takes pawn, attacks the knight on f8. And I think 2 pawns should be enough. If rook takes knight, the d pawn will start rolling up the board.
Yeah, you said 2 pawns. It's, almost in some cases 3 pawns, because for example here, d5, if knight c5 happens, I think the reason that this is one of those moves the engine is spotting is that white can also start to think not just about the pawns and the pass pawn, but also the black king. So you can switch your attention to the other side of the board.
Aman, Liem has to get this one. He can't bungle this up. It's happened before in the round. It's happened before in the match. But this win is extremely important. And he's very close. And this is the storyline, right? He's been better in so many of the positions. But just at the very end, things fall apart. Knight e7, knight f5 ideas.
Yep, and that can't keep happening. Hikaru is a tough enough opponent just on his own, right? But if you're also missing the few opportunities you get, it's just even tougher. So you can't also be an opponent to yourself as well. Hikaru is tough enough to handle.
Hikaru is just insane. I don't even know how he does what he does. The kind of chess he produces, the turnarounds that he does, and he's doing all of this while streaming, while talking to his community and his chat. It blows my mind.
Yeah, and it really is. It's like a comfort thing as well. I would always make the argument, Tanya, that anybody does not play better chess while streaming. The multitasking that you do, interacting, it has to take away from it, but it's a comfort thing. And honestly, it's a service, right? People want to see it. So he's providing that for everyone, and he's still providing the wins as well. So not missing a beat.
But he's got to be careful in this position. I mean, he's still down 2 pawns, completely winning for Liem. Hikaru is going to try to set up those tricks. The problem in the position for black is rook on the second rank looks really active, but there's really no way to find an assist for that rook. The knight on c5 can't jump to d3, can't jump to e4. The f line under control.
Yeah, I was wondering if there was a little moment for knight e6, strange move in that previous position, forking the 2 rooks. It wasn't played, and now we see rook to f6, losing a knight. This is bailout. I think we're going to see h5, and I imagine king h4, king h6 will be tried. But yeah, if you take, the king does escape.
That was a checkmate in one being threatened, so king h4 was important to try to run away to the g5 square. And the thing is, if you don't capture on h2, that pawn will be defended. There'll be no checkmates. And then the d pawn just starts rolling up the board. You could go d6 now.
Yeah, I would still be concerned about rook h2 and stuff. I think the issue is king h6 was still in the air without rook d6 as an answer. So optically, he said, let me just bring the king up. I should be okay here. Is he going to play like rook f4, trying to get that king out? You have to worry about maybe dropping too many pawns.
I mean, the material is quite crazy here because white has this d pawn, but it's still 2 versus 2 now. There's no extra pawns for white anymore. And Hikaru's creating some counterplay. That knight on c6 a bit offside, while the checks are happening.
Yep. Maybe we'll see rook g5 to try to hang on to the h-pawn, but rook takes g3 and king g6 I could also see as well. White still hasn't found the time to really get the pieces going.
Yeah, but you've got that knight, right? So you've got to be winning this completely. I think it's just got to be a matter of time. And Liem's doing a pretty good job on the clock as well. It's Hikaru with 15 seconds.
Yep. Yeah, but Hikaru is quite good with 15 seconds. So I feel like if it gets down to 15 apiece, you almost start to get nervous for Quang. So he's doing things the classical way. He's putting the rook behind the pawn. He wants to move this rook from d7 and finally get that going.
This is a bit scary because Hikaru's managed to get two passers as well, connected ones. The d5 pawn hasn't moved, but is he setting up checkmating ideas already? Now the rook looking at coming to f7 to block any attack on the king.
I was going to say, I wonder about knight d8 to stop rook f7, but he decides to just go straight for it anyway. Knight centralizes, and I think this rook intending to go to g6 here is quite powerful.
He has to win. Liem has to win this position. He's up a knight, the d5 pawn. That's a monster. That's finally moving up the board. And I don't think anything's stopping d7, d8. You could put your rook, well, I was going to say on the 4th rank as well. And there we have it. He's about to win the rook as well.
Yeah, I think you probably could have queened there. He's probably trying to find a way. Is it possible for me to interpose something on the d file so that my opponent can't even sack for it? But ultimately, no. He decides to just do this. This is 100% winning. You just need to bring the knight back as well. But let's just see this conversion, Tanya.
And Liem will show the way. And that's it, as he does. And now rook g3 to follow. That would have been over. And Liemle, he gets his